the truth. The chatter of over 100 guests died instantly. Every eye in the room turned to me. My husband, David's, face turned a ghostly white. I saw Jessica, that woman, standing off to the side. The champagne flute in her hand trembled almost imperceptibly. As the wife who has stood by your side for 30 years, for today, and today only, I will hide nothing. I will show you everything. I slowly raised the remote control I had prepared. Behind me, the large projection screen flickered to life. David lunged forward, his hand outstretched, but it was too late. As his colleagues, our relatives, and our neighbors all watched, the screen began to glow. But how on earth did I end up here? A simple housewife who had trusted her husband for 3 decades, making a choice like this in front of 100 people. If you want to know the beginning of this shocking truth, take a moment to hit that subscribe button. We bring you the incredible stories hidden behind ordinary faces every day. Turn on notifications, and you'll be the first to hear our latest story. So then, where did it all begin? The story goes back 3 months. It was an ordinary morning, just like any other. I woke up at 5:30 a.m. to prepare breakfast for my mother-in-law, and at 6, I woke up my husband. I had coffee brewing, bacon sizzling on the pan, and pancakes ready. I set the table. "Honey, breakfast is ready." David, who was reading the news on his tablet, gave a non-committal nod and sat down. There was no thank you. In 30 years, I'd never heard that word from him. "What time will you be home tonight?" I asked. "Probably a work dinner," he replied. When I asked, "Again?" David didn't even look up from his tablet. That's just how it is at the office, a lot to wrap up before retirement. I didn't ask any more questions. The answer would have been the same anyway. After quickly finishing his meal, David grabbed his briefcase. "I'm off. Have a good day, dear." The door closed. I was left alone in the empty house. As I washed the dishes, a thought crossed my mind. When did it start? When did the warmth for me disappear from my husband's eyes? When did my very existence become as taken for granted as the air he breathed? A small bell chimed from my mother-in-law's room. It was time for her breakfast. As I served the 85-year-old woman her tray, she had a complaint ready. The coffee was weak, the eggs were overcooked. I'd heard it all for 30 years. I bowed my head. That, too, was something I'd done for 30 years. By the time I was done tending to her, it was past 10 a.m. I put a load of laundry in, cleaned the house, and started preparing lunch. In the afternoon, I had to go to the grocery store. This was my day. No, this was my last 30 years. On my way back from the store, I ran into my neighbor, Mrs. Gable, in front of the local market. "Oh, Helen, is that you?" We exchanged pleasantries and chatted for a moment. She asked if my husband was still busy these days, when his 60th was, and if we were planning a big party. I told her we hadn't decided yet. When I got home and opened the front door, I saw my husband's gray jacket draped over the living room sofa. He must have forgotten it this morning, I thought, picking it up. I was about to check the pockets before taking it to the dry cleaners when I felt something in the inner pocket. It was a receipt from an upscale steakhouse downtown. Dinner for 2, $200. Last night, my husband had said he had a work dinner. My hands started to tremble. No, it wasn't just my hands. My whole body felt like it was freezing over. "Don't be ridiculous," a voice in my head said. Maybe he had dinner with a colleague? It could have been an important client. A special occasion. But deep in my gut, a seed of anxiety began to sprout. I put the receipt back in the pocket and hung the jacket in the closet. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. That night, David came home after 11 p.m. "You're home," I said. "Did you eat?" "Yes," he replied. When I asked if it was a big group for the work dinner, he said it was just a few people, something casual. He was lying. A $200 dinner for 2 at a fancy steakhouse was not a casual work dinner. My husband went to take a shower, and I sat numbly in the living room. We had lived together for 30 years. Since the day I married him, I had never spent a single night away from this house, always here to look after his mother. I had poured everything into raising our 2 children and supporting my husband's career. And now, in this moment, my husband was lying to me. I couldn't sleep. That night, after David was sound asleep, I quietly slipped into his home office. Papers were scattered across his desk, and next to the computer monitor was his cell phone. Normally, I would never have touched it, but tonight was different. My hand trembled as I picked it up, knowing I shouldn't. The password was our wedding anniversary. The irony was bitter, to betray me, yet keep our anniversary as his password. The screen lit up. I opened his messages. At the very top was a name, Jessica. Last night was amazing. I want to see you again tomorrow. It was a message my husband had sent yesterday, the night of the $200 steakhouse dinner. My fingers moved on their own, scrolling up through the conversation. I'm so stressed lately, David. I miss you. Just wait a little longer. Retirement is almost here. Then we'll have all the time in the world. Isn't your wife getting suspicious? Don't worry. She doesn't suspect a thing. She's completely clueless. The hand holding the phone was shaking violently. Clueless? Did he really think the wife who had spent 30 years with him was a clueless fool? I scrolled further. A month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. The messages went on and on. Thanks to you. I'm not worried about my credit card bill this month. Thank you, honey. I really want to buy a new designer bag. If Jessica wants it, then I have to buy it for her. I felt sick to my stomach. While I was at the market, trying to save every dollar, my husband was throwing money at another woman. While I was living frugally, enduring my mother-in-law's constant complaints, my husband was dining at expensive restaurants with another woman. I carefully placed the phone back where I found it and left the office. Back in the bedroom, I pulled the covers over me, but sleep was impossible. I looked at my husband, snoring beside me. Was this really the man I had spent 30 years with? I stared at the ceiling until dawn. The next morning, I made breakfast as usual. I said goodbye as usual. My husband ate his breakfast with his usual indifference and left. The moment the door closed, I collapsed onto the floor. I had no strength left. What should I do? Confront him? Or live on, pretending not to know? My own mother passed away long ago, and my pride kept me from telling my brother. I couldn't bring myself to tell my friends. I spent the next few days in a daze. The food I cooked was tasteless, I had no energy to clean, and my mother-in-law's nagging went in one ear and out the other. About a week later, I overheard something at the grocery store. From the aisle behind me, I heard hushed voices. Isn't that Mr. Johnson's wife? Yeah, that's her. I heard her husband's having an affair. No way, he seems so quiet and nice. That's why he's cheating. It's always the quiet ones. Men are all the same. If the wife is too obedient at home, they want to play outside. The whispers felt like knives in my back, so the rumor had already spread. I was the only one who didn't know. Everyone in town already knew. I grabbed my shopping cart and hurried out of the store. Tears streamed down my face the whole way home. When I got home, I looked in the mirror. A wrinkled face, dull skin, messy hair. The face of a 60-year-old woman stared back at me. I used to be beautiful. At 25, when I got married, I was known as the prettiest girl in the neighborhood. But 30 years of caring for my mother-in-law, raising kids, and endless housework had worn me down. When did my husband stop seeing me as a woman? When did I become just a housekeeper to him? That evening, David came home earlier than usual. As he ate dinner, he brought something up. My 60th is next month. What do you think about throwing a big party? It's my retirement after 30 years at the company, so I want to do something meaningful. He wanted to invite everyone from the office. All right, let's do that. My voice came out so calm it surprised even me. David pleased, ate well, and said, I'll count on you to handle the preparations. I just watched him. A big retirement party. He wanted to invite his colleagues. That meant she would come too. Jessica. That woman would be there. And then, an idea sparked in my mind. If he was inviting everyone from the office to the party, she would have to come, wouldn't she? She was his junior colleague, after all. The corners of my mouth tilted up slightly. Honey, if you're inviting your colleagues, please give me a guest list. I'll send out the invitations. David, suspecting nothing, nodded and said, Thanks. That night, after my husband was asleep, I went back to his office. On his desk was the guest list he had written out. I scanned the names, and there it was. Jessica Miller. Underneath, it said manager. I took the list back to the bedroom. Under the covers, I looked at the list again. Jessica Miller, 48, manager. My husband, who had betrayed the wife he'd spent 30 years with, and that woman, who was having an affair with a married man. If all his colleagues were gathered at the party, could I reveal everything? For the first time in a long time, I slept soundly. Strangely, my heart was at peace. The next morning, as soon as David left for work, I spread out the list and examined it carefully. 5 company executives, 12 people from his department, and colleagues from other departments. In total, over 30 people from his company. And right there, in the middle of the list, was the name Jessica Miller, written in neat script, Manager, Marketing Team. I slowly traced her name with my fingertip, the name I had seen on my husband's phone, the woman who called him honey and asked for a new purse. I called an event hall. I wanted to book a 60th birthday party. I told them there would be about 100 guests. The event coordinator was very helpful, explaining the menu options, asking if we wanted to prepare a video presentation, and if we needed an MC. "I'll prepare the video myself," I said. "A special video to celebrate my husband's 30 years with the company." "Oh, that's wonderful. A touching video will really set a great mood." I hung up and opened my calendar. The party was about a month away. 1 month. I wrote down a to-do list on a piece of paper. Design and send invitations, book the venue, select the menu, and gather evidence. I underlined the last item. 2 days later, the invitations arrived from the printer. They were on luxurious cream-colored paper with gold-embossed lettering. "You are cordially invited to celebrate the 60th birthday and retirement of David Johnson." I placed each invitation into an envelope, checking them against the guest list. The CEO, the vice president, the senior director. I wrote each name on the envelope with care. And then, the 23rd envelope. Miss Jessica Miller, Manager, Marketing. I wrote her name in neat, clear script, just as polite and formal as all the others. By the time I finished preparing the invitations, it was evening. David came home from work, looking to be in a better mood than usual. I finished the invitations. "You can take them to the office tomorrow." "Oh, already? You worked hard." David picked one up and looked it over, nodding in satisfaction. "Looks great. My wife is always so good at these things." I couldn't tell if it was a compliment or not. After letting me handle all the housework for 30 years, now he offers praise. "Make sure everyone from the office gets one. Don't leave anyone out." "Of course," David said, pleased, as he put the stack of invitations in his briefcase. The next day, after David left for work, I began my real work. I went into his office and opened his desk drawer. Stacks of credit card statements were neatly filed away. I went through them, one by one. Upscale restaurants, department stores, luxury boutiques, expensive bars. The amounts were staggering. I took out my phone and photographed each one. The date, the place, the amount, it was all evidence. Deep inside the drawer, I even found a hotel receipt. A receipt for a one-night stay in a room. My hands trembled again, but this time it was more anger than sadness. I took a picture. Calmly, methodically, I turned on his computer. The password, again, was our wedding anniversary. How ironic. I opened his email. Mixed in with work emails were personal messages. "Jessica, how about dinner tonight?" "David, I'm so stressed lately. I want to eat something delicious." "All right. I've booked a table at the hotel restaurant." I screenshotted every single email, organizing them by date and time. For a week, I gathered evidence like this. While my husband was at the office, I became a detective in my own home. In the back of his closet, I found a scarf that smelled of a woman's perfume. It wasn't mine. I searched his car, too. In the glove compartment of the passenger side, I found a lipstick. It wasn't my color. I photographed everything. Then one afternoon, the home phone rang. "Hello? Oh, is this Mrs. Johnson? This is Jessica Miller from Mr. Johnson's company, in the marketing team." My heart skipped a beat. It was her. She was calling me directly. "Ah, yes. How can I help you?" I kept my voice as calm as possible. "Thank you so much for the invitation. I was just wondering if there's anything I should prepare? Since it's Mr. Johnson's 60th and his retirement, I thought maybe his colleagues could prepare something special." Her voice was bright. Shameless. The audacity to call a married man's wife and ask what she should prepare for his birthday party. "Oh, just come as you are. You don't need to prepare anything special. Still, perhaps a bouquet of flowers? Mr. Johnson has always taken such good care of us." "Taken good care of you? by taking money from our household budget to buy you designer bags and expensive dinners. Yes, that would be lovely. I'm sure he would appreciate that. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Well, I'll see you at the party then. The line went dead. I slowly placed the receiver back in its cradle. She'll see me at the party. Yes. Let's see each other then. In front of all your colleagues, I will show you everything. That evening, when David came home, I asked him, "Did everyone at the office get their invitations?" "Yes. They all said they're definitely coming. Jessica called you, right? She said to thank you." David's expression was strange, a mix of nervousness and confidence that his wife wouldn't notice a thing. "Yes. She said she's preparing a bouquet. You have a good junior colleague." Yes. They're all good kids." David smiled nonchalantly and walked into the living room. I watched his back from the kitchen. 2 weeks until the party. The folder on my computer was filled with evidence. Credit card statements, hotel receipts, email screenshots, text message screenshots. And a few days ago, the photos from the private investigator I'd hired arrived. Photos of my husband and Jessica entering a hotel lobby, photos of them sitting across from each other in a restaurant, laughing, photos of them walking side by side down the street. All the evidence was perfect. Now, only the final task remained, editing the video. It wasn't my first time using video editing software. A few years ago, when my daughter Sarah was preparing for her wedding, I had watched her make a video for her save the dates. I remembered some of the simple things she had taught me. I sat down at the computer and opened the program. First, I scanned old photos of my husband. A photo from when he first joined the company. A photo celebrating a promotion, family vacation photos. 30 years of memories. As I flipped through an album, I found our wedding photo. At 25, I was truly beautiful. Smiling brightly in a white wedding dress, I was happy then. I believed we would spend our whole lives together, trusting and relying on each other. David was young in the photo too. He was smiling, wearing a handsome suit with his hand on my shoulder. I stared at the photo for a long time. When did we become like this? When did we stop cherishing each other? Or more accurately, when did he stop cherishing me? I slowly closed the album and began working on the video. I filled the first half with beautiful memories. Our wedding, photos of the kids when they were little, family trips, happy times flowing by with soft, gentle music. Then, in the middle, I slowly changed the mood. Between recent photos of my husband, I inserted images of the credit card statements, the hotel restaurant charge, the luxury boutique purchase. I made sure the date and amount were clearly visible as the screen transitioned. And for the final part, I placed the photos from the private investigator. My husband and Jessica's backs as they walked into a hotel lobby. Their faces as they laughed across a restaurant table, the two of them walking hand in hand. Finally, I added the screenshots of the text messages. "I miss you, honey. If Jessica wants it, then I have to buy it for her. Don't worry, your wife won't find out. She's completely clueless." I timed them to appear on the screen one by one. The final scene of the video was our wedding photo again, and over the image of the happy, smiling young couple, a caption slowly faded in, 30 years of marriage, and betrayal. I played the video from beginning to end. It was about 5 minutes long, a journey from beautiful memories in the first half to the shocking truth in the second. The guests at the party would first think it was a touching tribute video. Then, around the middle, they would start to notice something was off. And in the final part, when the whole truth was revealed, the shock would be immense. I saved the video to a USB drive, and I made a backup, just in case. When I finished, the clock said 2 a.m. My husband was snoring in the next room, completely oblivious. I hid the USB drive deep inside a desk drawer. 1 week left until the party. The next morning, I prepared breakfast as usual. As David sat at the table, he asked how the party preparations were coming along. I told him they were almost done, that the venue and menu were confirmed. When I mentioned I had also prepared a video and that he should look forward to it, David looked pleased and thanked me. I smiled calmly at him. A few days later, my daughter Sarah stopped by. She asked if preparing for the party was difficult and if I needed any help. I told her everything was done and that she just needed to come looking pretty on the day. Sarah took my hand and said I looked pale, asking if I was okay. I said I was fine, but it was a lie. I was exhausted from sleepless nights. but I couldn't tell Sarah, not yet. After she left, I was alone again. I sat on the living room sofa and looked at the calendar. The date of the party was circled in red. 4 days left. The event hall called for a final confirmation. Guest count, menu, table arrangements, and video playback time. I told them to play the video after the congratulatory speeches were over and that I would give the signal myself. The coordinator said they understood and would play it as soon as I gave the cue. Everything was going according to plan. That evening, David came home and said everyone at work was looking forward to the party. He mentioned that Jessica was preparing a large bouquet of flowers. Then he asked who would be the MC for the event. "I will," I said. David looked surprised and asked if I would be okay. "I know you best," I replied. "I'll give a proper introduction to your 30-year career." David looked a bit puzzled, but he nodded. 3 days left. I went to the venue for a rehearsal. I checked the sound system and tested the video to make sure it played properly. I plugged in the USB and played the video. On the large screen, the images appeared clearly. The happy memories, and then the evidence of betrayal. The event staff member, who had been saying what a touching video it was, looked shocked when he saw the second half. He asked cautiously if this content was really okay. I told him to play it exactly as it was, just as I've prepared it. The staff member looked uncomfortable but nodded. 2 days left. I chose my outfit, the dress I would wear to the party. I took out the nicest dress I owned from my closet. It was an elegant silk dress I had saved for special occasions. I tried it on in front of the mirror. A 60-year-old woman stood there, wrinkled and aged, but still dignified. A woman who had endured for 30 years, but would endure no longer. 1 day left. I couldn't sleep all night. Tomorrow, everything would end. Or perhaps, everything would begin anew. I woke up at 5 a.m. and showered. I looked in the mirror and did my makeup. Carefully, meticulously. I put on the silk dress and neatly pinned up my hair. When I came out to the living room, David was already awake. When he commented that I was up early, I replied, "Of course. It's your 60th birthday party." David, in a good mood, smiled and said I had worked so hard. "Honey," he said, it had been a long time since I heard him call me that. "It was nothing," I replied. "It was the natural thing to do." It was time to leave for the venue. I put the USB drive in my purse, and the backup USB too. The preparations were perfect. When we arrived at the banquet hall, a few guests were already there. They were David's colleagues, well-dressed men chatting in the lobby. They greeted me when they saw me, saying I must have worked hard and that it was a wonderful day. I smiled and accepted their greetings. I entered the hall. The tables were neatly arranged, and the stage was decorated with floral arrangements congratulating David. The large screen at the back was ready. A staff member approached me, confirming that everything was set and the food would be served soon. He reconfirmed that he would play the video as soon as I gave the signal. I nodded. I took out the USB and handed it to him, making sure my hand didn't shake. Guests started to file in. David's CEO and executives arrived first. David hurried over to greet them, shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries. Relatives arrived. My mother-in-law came in a wheelchair. At 85, her expression was as stern as ever. "Well, is the food prepared properly?" she demanded. "Don't worry, Mother. Everything is perfectly prepared," I replied. She just huffed and had someone wheel her to her seat. My son Michael and his wife arrived. My daughter Sarah and her fiancé came too. My children came up to me and asked if I was okay. "I'm fine," I said with a smile. "It's your father's big day." The number of guests grew. 50, 60, 70. Colleagues, neighbors, relatives. The hall filled with people. And then, someone entered through the main doors. It was Jessica Miller. She wore a pale pink dress, her hair styled elegantly. She held a large bouquet of flowers. Her makeup was heavy, and the sound of her high heels clicked on the floor. My heart pounded, but I kept my expression steady. I watched her with a smile. Jessica looked around before spotting David and walking over to him. She handed him the bouquet, smiling brightly as she wished him a happy birthday and congratulations on his retirement. David's expression froze for a second. He seemed to be signaling with his eyes not to be so obvious in front of his colleagues, but Jessica paid no mind, standing next to him and greeting other colleagues. "Mr. Johnson looks so handsome today. The man of the hour." The colleagues laughed and agreed. Jessica really looks up to you, David. You've got a great team. I stood near the entrance, watching it all. That woman seemed to have no idea what was about to happen here today. I slowly walked towards her. Hello, you must be Jessica Miller, the manager? Jessica looked at me, startled. A flicker of panic crossed her face, but it was quickly replaced with a bright smile. Oh, yes, you must be Mrs. Johnson. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for inviting me. You called to thank me, I remember. Thank you for coming today. I extended my hand. Jessica hesitated for a moment before taking it. I could feel that her hand was cold and trembling. And you even brought such a beautiful bouquet. Oh, yes, Mr. Johnson has always taken such good care of us. Is that so? I didn't realize my husband took such good care of his colleagues. He's usually so quiet at home. Jessica's face tensed slightly. Let me show you to your seat. This way, please. I led her to a table of colleagues, one specially chosen near the stage, a seat where everyone could see her clearly. Please sit here. Make yourself comfortable and enjoy the meal. Jessica gave an awkward smile and sat down. From a distance, David was watching us. He looked anxious. The time came, and the party began. I went up on stage and took the microphone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight. My voice came out steadier than I expected. Today, we are here to celebrate my husband David Johnson's 60th birthday and his retirement. I've organized this event to honor my husband, who has worked so diligently at one company for 30 years. The guests applauded. David stood below the stage, looking proud, but if you looked closely, his hands were trembling slightly. First, I'd like to invite the CEO to say a few words. The CEO came on stage and took the mic. He said David was a pillar of the company, a sincere and responsible employee, and he wished him a healthy and happy retirement. Applause erupted. Next came speeches from a representative of his friends and a representative of the family. They all praised David, a good husband, a good father, a dedicated employee. I stood beside the stage, listening to their words with a smile on my face. After the speeches, the food began to be served. I walked between the tables, greeting the guests, thanking them for coming, telling them to enjoy the food. Then, I stopped at the table where Jessica was sitting. Miss Miller, is the food to your liking? Jessica looked up, startled. Oh, yes. It's delicious. I'm glad. I chose the menu knowing what my husband likes. After living with him for 30 years, you get to know all his preferences. Jessica's hand, holding her fork, froze. By the way, Miss Miller, how long have you worked with my husband? About 5 years. Oh, is that so? 5 years is quite a while. You must have learned a lot from him. Yes. Mr. Johnson was a great mentor. My husband often said he worked late and even came in on weekends. He must have been busy taking care of his junior colleagues. Jessica's face turned pale. Another colleague at the table chimed in. Oh yes, Mr. Johnson often buys us dinner and really looks after us. That's why everyone respects him so much. I see. He's a good boss then. I smiled and moved on to the next table. David discreetly came over to me. He asked if I was okay, if I wasn't too tired. I'm fine. It's your big day. It has to be perfect. David looked like he wanted to say something else, but he closed his mouth. As the meal continued, I kept circulating among the tables, greeting every guest warmly and asking about the food. I was the perfect hostess. All the while, my eyes kept drifting back to Jessica. She looked more and more uncomfortable, barely touching her food, constantly checking her watch and fiddling with her purse. David was the same. Even while talking to guests, he kept glancing at me nervously. I saw it all. As the meal was winding down, I went back on stage. And now, we have a special presentation I've prepared. The guests' attention turned to me. David's face was tense. But before that, I'd like to say a few words of thanks to my husband. I held the microphone and looked at David. Honey, you've worked so hard for 30 years. My voice rang through the hall. David managed an awkward smile and nodded, but his eyes were filled with anxiety. I remember when I married you 30 years ago, at the tender age of 25. You had just started at the company as a new recruit. The guests listened quietly. I raised 2 children, cared for your mother, and managed the household so that you could focus solely on your work. I thought that was a wife's duty. My mother-in-law watched me from her wheelchair, her expression unreadable. I always had a warm meal waiting for you when you came home late, and I watched over you quietly from the background when you were tired. That's how I've lived for 30 years. David's face grew harder. Many of your colleagues are here today. The people you've worked with for 3 decades. They all know how diligently you worked. What a responsible employee you were. People from his company nodded. Then, I turned my gaze towards Jessica. I heard you took great care of your junior colleagues, buying dinner for them when they worked late, encouraging them when they were struggling. Jessica's face went white. You're a truly wonderful boss, aren't you? Right, Miss Miller? The hall suddenly fell silent. All eyes turned to Jessica. She sat frozen, unable to say a word. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It's just that you went out of your way to call and thank me, so I wanted to mention it. I said it with a smile, but the atmosphere in the room had already shifted. People started whispering, "Who is she? Why is the wife talking like that? Something's not right." David quickly raised a hand. "Honey, that's enough." "Oh, but I have more to say." I gently cut him off. "I've prepared something special today, a video commemorating your 30 years at the company." David's face was ashen. "Let's all watch together." I signaled the staff member. The lights dimmed. The screen lit up. The video began with soft music. Our wedding photo appeared, young and happy. Me in a white dress, David in a handsome suit, both of us beaming. "Wow, you were so young. Mrs. Johnson, you were beautiful." I heard whispers of admiration from the guests. Next, photos of our children's births, me holding our newborns, family photos of us walking in the park, holding our children's hands. Oh, the kids were so cute. My daughter Sarah gave a small laugh. A slideshow of family vacations followed. The beach, an amusement park, grandma's house, happy moments. The guests watched with smiles on their faces. I heard murmurs of how touching it was. David, too, seemed to relax a little, relieved that the video was proceeding normally. But I knew. The real show was about to begin. The video entered its second half. The music slowed down. Recent family photos appeared. Our children, all grown up, holiday gatherings. And then, the screen changed. A credit card statement appeared. Upscale steakhouse, dinner for two, $200. The date was clearly visible. The guests' expressions began to change. What's that? A credit card bill? A charge from a luxury boutique appeared. $1,200. Women's handbag, another steakhouse receipt, dinner for two, $250. The whispers grew louder. David's face was once again deathly pale. He tried to stand, but with so many people around him, he couldn't move. The next image, the backs of a man and a woman entering a hotel lobby. The man was David. His back, in a gray suit, was unmistakable. The woman wore a light-colored dress and had long hair. The guests' eyes all darted towards Jessica. Her dress today was a similar style. Her hairstyle was the same. "No way! Is that?" The murmuring grew louder. Jessica's face was completely drained of color. Her mouth hung open. She tried to stand, but her legs seemed to give out, and she sank back into her chair. The next image, the two of them sitting across from each other in a restaurant, David and Jessica. They were clearly holding hands across the table. The two of them walking down the street, David's arm around her shoulder. At a department store, David handing Jessica a shopping bag. "Is that really Mr. Johnson?" His colleagues stared at him in shock. The CEO's face hardened. The executives exchanged glances. And then, the next screen. Text messages began to appear, one by one. "I miss you, honey. Just wait a little longer. Retirement is almost here. Then we'll have all the time in the world. Don't worry, your wife won't find out. She's completely clueless. If Jessica wants it, then I have to buy it for her. Thanks to you, I'm not worried about my credit card bill this month." The messages appeared in succession, complete with dates and times. The banquet hall was utterly silent. No one even breathed. My daughter Sarah covered her mouth with her hand. My son Michael's face was grim. My mother-in-law was glaring at David from her wheelchair. The final image. Our wedding photo reappeared, the happy, smiling young couple. And over it, the caption slowly faded in, 30 years of marriage and betrayal. The video ended. The screen went dark. The lights came back on. Over 100 guests were staring at me. David was still in his seat, His head hung low. Jessica was covering her face with her hands, sobbing. I slowly raised the microphone. Everyone, my voice was steady. As the wife who dedicated 30 years of her life, for today only, I wanted to tell you the truth. The hall remained silent. Over 100 people watched me, holding their breath. I married at 25, cared for my mother-in-law, raised 2 children, and supported my husband. I was taught that was a wife's duty, and I believed it. David still couldn't lift his head. When my husband said he was working late, I believed him. When he said he had frequent work dinners, I understood. When he said he was going golfing on the weekend, I let him go. I never doubted him once. I paused to compose myself. But 3 weeks ago, I happened to find a receipt in his jacket pocket. A steakhouse. Dinner for two, $200. That night, my husband had told me he had a work dinner. The guests nodded, remembering. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe it was a client dinner, an important meeting. I believed the husband I had spent 30 years with would never betray me. But I had to know for sure. So, I looked at his phone. I'm sorry, but I secretly checked my husband's phone. David lifted his head slightly. His eyes were filled with fear. And there, I found out everything. The messages, the call logs, it was all there. My husband was with another woman. I paused, swallowing the lump in my throat. And that woman is here today. I turned my gaze to Jessica. She was still weeping, her face hidden in her hands. The colleagues sitting near her had all shifted their chairs away. Miss Miller, when I sent you the invitation, did you know that I knew everything? Jessica couldn't answer. You probably didn't, and neither did my husband. You both thought his wife was so naive and simple that she wouldn't know a thing. The faces of his colleagues were a mix of emotions. The CEO, his arms crossed, stared coldly at David. The other executives shook their heads and clicked their tongues. Do you know why I arranged this event today? The guests listened quietly. For revenge, I said honestly. This was the only revenge a woman who gave 30 years of her life only to be betrayed could have. Instead of a quiet divorce, I chose to reveal the truth in front of everyone. David stood up. He staggered, trying to approach the stage. Honey, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was wrong. Please, let's not do this in front of everyone. Let's talk at home. Talk? I asked through the microphone. How many chances did we have to talk at home? But you lied every single time. Work dinners, late nights, golf. It was all lies. David was speechless. That's why I prepared this event today. To show the truth in front of all the colleagues, relatives, and neighbors you were so eager to invite. The CEO stood up. Johnson, his voice was cold and sharp. Get out, and don't bother coming to the office again. As of today, you are no longer an employee of this company. David's face grew even paler. Sir, there is no retirement. Your severance will be the bare minimum. You will be held responsible for disgracing this company's name. The other executives nodded in agreement. The other employees stared at David with cold contempt. The senior colleague they had once respected was now an object of scorn. Jessica tried to get up, but her legs buckled. Miss Miller, the CEO called out to her, don't bother coming to work tomorrow. HR will be in touch. Jessica burst into tears. She grabbed her handbag and tried to flee the hall, but the crowd of people near the entrance didn't part for her. They just stared at her with icy glares. Finally, Jessica scrambled out a side door. The hall was quiet again. And then, "You wicked woman!" My mother-in-law's shrill voice cut through the silence. From her wheelchair, she pointed a trembling finger at me. "You've never earned a penny in your life! My son worked his fingers to the bone for 30 years to provide for you, and this is how you repay him? By humiliating him in public?" Her voice shook with rage. "It's normal for a man to do things like this when he's out in the world. You can't even understand that much?" A murmur went through the room. "Mom!" David started. "You be quiet. I didn't raise you to be henpecked. For 30 years, she's never gone hungry, never been without clothes, always had a roof over her head. She should be grateful," my mother-in-law shrieked. "My son works so hard at his company. Instead of a kind word when he comes home late, you pull a stunt like this and ruin him." My daughter Sarah stepped forward. "Grandma, that's not right." "You shut up too. Just standing there watching your father be humiliated. Dad was the one who was wrong." "Wrong? All men are like that. When they're stressed out, they can do things like that." I looked at my mother-in-law quietly. The woman who had treated me like a servant for 30 years. The woman who took my sacrifices for granted. The woman who always protected her son above all else. She hadn't changed at all. "Mother," I said calmly, "I have endured for 30 years, too. I can't endure it anymore." "What? You insolent!" She started to push her wheelchair forward, but one of the relatives stopped her. The guests were looking at her with disapproval. One by one, the neighbors came up to me. "Helen, you did the right thing. You're so brave. Things will get better for you now." They held my hand and offered words of comfort. My son Michael stood with a complicated expression, torn between his father and me. But my daughter Sarah came to my side and squeezed my hand tightly. "Mom, you did the right thing. I'm on your side." Her hand was warm. David's colleagues left the hall, avoiding his gaze. David stood alone in a corner. On the day that should have been his glorious 60th birthday and retirement party, his 30-year career had crumbled to dust. I took Sarah's hand and walked out of the banquet hall. Outside, it was a warm spring day. A breeze blew past. It was a wind of freedom, the first I had felt in 30 years. A month passed. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly quick. David didn't contest anything. The evidence was irrefutable, his fault undeniable. I received my fair share of the assets, compensation for my 30 years of devotion. David was fired from his company. It wasn't retirement, it was termination with cause. I heard he only received the minimum severance package. Jessica also quit her job, or rather, she was forced to. She was ostracized at the office, and all her colleagues turned their backs on her. The story of the party spread like wildfire through our town. Some said I had gone too far. Others said it was a satisfying dose of justice. Whatever they said, it didn't matter. I had done what I had to do. My mother-in-law still blamed me. She wouldn't take my calls or agree to see me. I heard she was telling all our relatives that I had ruined the family, all while defending her son. That didn't matter either. I had spent 30 years living under her thumb. I didn't have to anymore. My son Michael didn't contact me for a while. He must have been in pain, caught between his father and me. I understood that. It was something that needed time. But my daughter Sarah visited often. "Mom, what are you doing today?" Sarah stopped by with coffee. "Just organizing the house." "You must be bored all by yourself." "It's okay. I actually prefer being alone." It wasn't a lie. For 30 years, my life had revolved around taking care of someone else. Now, I only had to think about myself. I would wake up, slowly sip a cup of coffee, watch a show I wanted to see, and read a book I wanted to read. "Mom, have you heard from Dad?" "Don't talk about your father." Sarah fell silent. I wasn't curious about how David was doing. I didn't want to know. "What are you going to do now, Mom?" "I don't know. I haven't thought about it yet." "You should go on a trip with your friends. You haven't had a proper break in forever." Sarah was right. In 30 years, I had never once had time for myself. "I'll think about it." After Sarah left, I looked in the mirror. A 60-year-old woman stood there, wrinkled and aged, but her expression was different. She wasn't withdrawn. There was a spark of life in her eyes. It had been a month since I started living alone. People asked if I was lonely. I was. But it was better to be lonely than to live with betrayal. As I prepared dinner, I thought, what do I do from here? I'm 60. There's still life left to live. 20 years, 30 years, maybe more. How should I fill that time? Suddenly, I remembered the things I wanted to do when I was young, the dreams I gave up when I got married. I had wanted to learn how to paint. I wanted to play the piano. I wanted to live by the ocean for a while. I could do that now. Without needing anyone's permission, I could do whatever I wanted. A few days later, I signed up for a class at the local community center, Introduction to Watercolor Painting. On the first day of class, I touched paints for the first time. I dipped the brush in color and applied it to the paper. It was clumsy, but it was fun. "Is this your first time?" the woman sitting next to me asked. She looked to be about my age. "Yes, it is." "Me too." "We can learn together." And just like that, I made a friend. Her name was Mrs. Peterson. She was a widow who lived alone. After class, we had coffee together. "So, how do you find living alone?" she asked. It was awkward at first, but now it's okay.